Hello everyone, and welcome to Cinemax. Today we are going to explore a film that is widely considered one of the most complicated and mind-bending masterpieces of the 21st century. Christopher Nolan's Inception. If you have ever watched this movie and felt completely lost in the labyrinth of dreams within dreams, or if you have argued with friends for hours about whether that spinning top finally stopped, you are in exactly the right place. We are going to dissect this movie piece by piece and layer by layer. By the time this explanation is finished, you will have a crystal clear understanding of not just what happened on screen, but also how it happened and, more importantly, why it happened. Make sure you are settled in because this is going to be a deep dive, so let's unlock the secrets of Inception together. We begin our story at the end, or at least very near it. The film opens with the sound of waves violently crashing against a rocky shore. Our protagonist, Dom Cobb, washes up on the sand. He is disoriented, his face is covered in a beard, and he looks utterly exhausted, like a man who has traveled a great distance. He is soon dragged into a grand, decaying dining hall where an extremely old man is eating a meal. This old man, we will later discover, is Saito, a powerful Japanese businessman. He looks at Cobb with a strange sense of recognition, but we don't get to stay in this moment for long. Immediately, the narrative flashes back. This is a classic technique by director Christopher Nolan, starting with the climax of the story to plant a seed of deep curiosity in your mind about how everything went so wrong. In this flashback, we are introduced to a younger version of Saito inside his own subconscious. The setting is a magnificent Japanese castle, but there is a strange, physics-defying detail. It is situated on top of a helicopter pad in the middle of a bustling city. Here we meet Cobb and his right-hand man, a sharp and meticulous operative named Arthur. They are in the middle of an extraction. This is where we learn the fundamental rules of the world of Inception. Military technology exists that allows multiple people to connect their subconscious minds using a device called a PASIV, which stands for Portable Automated Somnolence Intravenous, housed inside a silver briefcase. When connected, the participants share a single dream world. The role of the architect is to design the layout and physics of this dream world, acting like a god of the space. The dreamer is the person whose mind actually hosts the scenario and populates it with subconscious projections, the people you see walking around in the background. The most important rule of extraction is that you must never let the subject know they are dreaming. If you do, their subconscious security, which manifests as hostile projections, will swarm the intruders like white blood cells attacking a virus. The goal of this opening heist is simple: steal a set of corporate secrets from Saito's mind. However, the operation fails spectacularly. Why does it fail? Because Cobb's subconscious is compromised. He is haunted by a violent projection of his deceased wife, Mal. Mal sabotages the mission because Cobb's overwhelming guilt over her death constantly interferes with his perception of reality. This is not just a small glitch. It is the central conflict of the entire movie. Cobb's own mind is his biggest enemy, and it makes him a liability in the dangerous world of dream sharing. But Saito, rather than having them killed or arrested, reveals that this failed extraction was actually a test. He has a job offer, and this is the call to adventure for Cobb. Saito does not want them to steal an idea, he wants them to perform the opposite, an inception. He wants them to plant a single thought into a person's subconscious so that the person believes it is their own. The target is a man named Robert Fisher, the heir to a dying energy mogul's vast corporate empire. Saito, a rival businessman, wants Fisher to break up his father's company. In return for this seemingly impossible task, Saito promises to use his immense power and connections to wipe Cobb's criminal record clean. Cobb is a fugitive in the United States, wrongly accused of murdering his wife Mal. He had to flee and leave his 2 young children behind. If he can pull off this inception, he can finally go home. Cobb agrees because he is desperate. He believes Inception is possible because he has attempted it once before, but it ended in catastrophe, a sin that still lives inside his subconscious. To pull off the impossible, you need a specialist team. This is where Christopher Nolan beautifully lays out all the rules of the game for us. Cobb travels to Paris to meet his father-in-law, a professor named Miles. He needs a new architect because he can no longer design the mazes himself. His subconscious projection of Mal would find him too easily and destroy the entire plan. Miles introduces him to a brilliant young architecture student named Ariadne. Her name is a reference to the Greek myth of the labyrinth. She will be our guide through the maze, and she also acts as the audience surrogate. As Cobb teaches her how to design impossible structures in dreams, like a staircase that loops infinitely without going up or down, known as the Penrose stairs, we learn the crucial physics of the shared dreaming state. We learn that there is a distinct difference between the architect and the dreamer. The architect designs the physical layout of the dream, but a different person, the dreamer, actually hosts the dream. This prevents the subject, Fisher, from recognizing his own subconscious surroundings too easily. We also learn about the most critical factor in a mission this deep: time dilation. The deeper you go into the mind, the slower time moves. It works on a geometric progression. Because the brain processes information much faster during the REM-like state induced by the medication, 5 minutes in the real world equals 1 hour in the first level of the dream. That 1 hour expands into about a week in the second level, and a week expands into potentially years in the third level. We also learn about the totem. Every dreamer carries a totem, an object whose exact physical weight, balance, or behavior is known only to them. Cobb's totem is a small spinning top. In the real world, the top will eventually run out of momentum and topple over. In a dream, it can spin eternally. This is the ultimate reality check, but for Cobb, it is also a cruel reminder of his dead wife, because that spinning top used to belong to Mal. With the rules explained, the team is assembled one piece at a time. The first is Eames, the forger. He possesses the ability to physically transform into other people inside the dream, allowing the team to manipulate the target's perception. Eames brings a charming, cynical wit to the group, understanding that true deception is an art form. Next is Yusuf, the chemist. He is responsible for formulating the extremely powerful sedative needed to sustain a stable, 3-level, nested dream. However, this powerful sedative comes with a dangerous side effect. Normally, if you die in a dream while connected to the PASIV, you simply wake up. But under this heavy sedative, your inner ear function is paralyzed. So if you die in the dream, you do not wake up. Instead, your consciousness drops into a raw, infinite, unstructured subconscious space called limbo. Limbo is a purgatory where time stretches to an eternity and you can forget what is real. Finally, Saito insists on joining the team, not as a tourist, but to oversee his investment. He wants to ensure the mission succeeds, even if it puts him in grave danger. Now, we get to the core of the strategy. The goal is not to walk up to Fisher and say, "Break up your father's company." That is too direct, and his mind would instantly reject it, like a transplanted organ being attacked by the immune system. For the Inception to work, the idea must feel like it was born organically in Fisher's own mind. Cobb explains this using the principle of positive emotion overriding negative logic. The plan is a 3-tiered emotional manipulation. On the deepest level, the third layer, they want Fisher to have a cathartic emotional breakthrough with his dying father, Maurice Fisher. They want him to discover a symbolic, secret will or a token of his father's love, suggesting that the father wanted him to be his own man, not just a shadow of the empire. On the second layer, the relationship context, they will make Fisher distrust his godfather, a man named Browning. They will make Browning, who is actually Eames in disguise, appear to be the one hiding the will. This pushes Fisher to voluntarily go deeper into his own subconscious to find the truth. This is the genius of the Inception. They are weaponizing Fisher's own mind against him. On the first layer, a straightforward kidnapping in a rainy downtown city, they only need to introduce the abstract concept of a secret will to Fisher's subconscious so that his mind begins to search for it. To wake up from this heavily sedated, multi-layered dream, they cannot simply die. They need a kick, which is the physical sensation of falling. This falling sensation overrides the sedative's balance lock and jolts the inner ear back to the waking world. Because time moves at different speeds across the layers, these kicks must be perfectly synchronized. To coordinate this, they use a piece of music, Edith Piaf's song, Non, je ne regrette rien, played through headphones as a warning signal. When you hear the music booming through the dream, it means a kick is imminent, and you must be ready. The operation begins on a 10-hour flight in first class. Fisher is their unwitting seatmate. The passive device is activated, the sedative takes hold, and the team plunges into the first layer of the dream. This level is a sprawling city, and Yusuf is the dreamer. It is raining heavily. Why is it raining? It is a small, very human detail. Yusuf had been drinking champagne and didn't visit the bathroom before going under, so his urgent physical need manifests as a torrential downpour in the dream. Immediately, the plan goes sideways. They had anticipated Fisher's subconscious defenses to be normal security projections, but Fisher has been trained. His subconscious is militarized. A freight train suddenly barrels through the city street and heavily armed projections attack the van with ferocious gunfire. In the chaos, Saito is shot in the chest. The clock is now a ticking time bomb. If Saito dies under this heavy sedative, he will not wake up. His mind will be trapped in the infinite chaos of limbo. Cobb is terrified, knowing they cannot abort the mission because Saito's life and his own chance to go home depend on it. So, they are forced to push forward and go deeper. Cobb pulls a highly risky gambit here. He reveals to Fisher that he is dreaming and that Cobb is there to protect him. This temporarily turns Fisher into an ally, but it is extremely dangerous because pointing out the dream state usually causes the subconscious projections to become intensely aggressive against the foreign presence. With the city streets turning into a war zone, they strap themselves into the back of a van, link up the PASIV device again, and Yusuf, who must stay behind to drive, drops them into the second layer. The second layer is a sleek, modernist hotel, and Arthur is the dreamer. Here, Cobb employs a brilliant piece of psychological misdirection. He approaches a completely disoriented Fisher and introduces himself not as a kidnapper, but as Mr. Charles, Fisher's head of security, planted in his dream to extract the identities of the kidnappers. Cobb expertly flips Fisher's paranoia around. He convinces Fisher that his godfather, Browning, is untrustworthy and knows more about the kidnapping than he is letting on. The genius of this layer is that Cobb convinces Fisher that they need to enter Browning's mind to find out what he knows. Fisher volunteers for this. He thinks he is going deeper into his godfather's subconscious to uncover a conspiracy, but he is actually just going deeper into his own mind. This is the successful Inception. Fisher is now actively participating in his own manipulation, driven by the idea that he needs to discover the truth. Arthur must stay behind in the hotel to manage the kick. However, up on the first level, Yusuf, who is driving the van, is still under heavy attack. He is forced to drive the van off a bridge to initiate the kick, which sends the van into a state of freefall. Because of the physics of shared dreaming, this freefall in the first level causes a catastrophic loss of gravity in the second level. Arthur finds himself in a hotel where gravity has completely disappeared. This leads to one of the most iconic action sequences in cinema history. Arthur must improvise a new way to create a kick since simple freefall is no longer possible in a zero-gravity environment. He rigs explosive charges in an elevator shaft to create a sudden, artificial falling sensation that will synchronize with the van hitting the water on the first level. While Arthur is fighting physics, the rest of the team drops into the third layer. This is the final stage of the Inception, the snowy alpine fortress. Eames is the dreamer of this level. Fisher's fortified subconscious now manifests as a heavily armed military base on the side of a mountain. Fisher believes he is breaching this fortress to find the real will his father left behind, the secret that Browning was supposedly hiding. The Inception is almost complete. Eames, disguised as a security projection, guides Fisher to the inner vault. Fisher enters and expects to find a legal document. Instead, he finds his dying father, Maurice Fisher, on his deathbed. The will they planted was never a piece of paper. It was an emotional symbol. It was a pinwheel, a simple childhood toy. The father's supposed last word is disappointed. But when Fisher asks for clarification, the projection of his father says, "No. I was disappointed that you tried to be me." Fisher breaks down in tears, emotionally reconstructing his entire memory of his father. He decides to build something for himself rather than inherit an empire. The Inception is a success, a positive idea born from an emotional catharsis. But the tragedy of Dom Cobb's mind cannot be contained. As Fisher approaches the vault, Cobb's projected guilt, Mal, appears. She is a malignant tumor in his subconscious that he cannot control. She emerges from the shadows and shoots Fisher directly in the chest. It seems Fisher is dead, lost to the void. At the exact same moment, up on the first level, Saito succumbs to his chest wound and dies. Both Fisher and Saito are now in a state of clinical brain death, trapped in limbo. The entire mission seems like a complete, irreversible failure. This devastating moment perfectly illustrates the film's central theme. Unresolved guilt will inevitably corrupt any creation you try to build. You cannot run from your past. It will find you in the deepest parts of your mind. Ariadne, the architect, refuses to give up. She suggests a radical, desperate idea. They must follow Fisher into limbo. Cobb, terrified of returning to the space he built with his wife, initially resists, but he knows it is the only way. Ariadne forces him to confront his past, and they both allow the sedative to push them down into the raw, unstructured subconscious. Because Cobb and Mal were the pioneers of deep dreaming, limbo is not a blank slate for them. It is a decaying, crumbling cityscape built from the shards of their shared memories. A ghost town where they lived for 50 years in the equivalent of a few real-world hours. Limbo is a shared space constructed entirely from Cobb's guilt. It is here, in the depths of limbo, on the shores of his own subconscious ocean, and walking through the ruins of the home he built with Mal, that the full, tragic truth is finally revealed. Many years ago, Cobb and Mal had experimented with deeper and deeper layers of the mind and ended up trapped in limbo. They built a world for themselves, growing old together. But Mal, as they grew old, chose to forget it was a dream. She locked her totem, the spinning top, away in a safe, refusing to accept the unreality of their world. To bring her back to the real world and to their waiting children, Cobb had to perform an Inception on her. He broke into her safe, took her spinning top and spun it. He planted the simple, viral idea, "Your world is not real." That idea allowed them to lie down on a train track and wake up, but it didn't stop. The idea festered and followed her back to reality like a parasite. Mal became pathologically convinced that the real world was still a dream, that her children were not real, and that death was the only way to wake up. To escape a reality she believed was fake, she killed herself, staging it as a threat to force Cobb to jump with her. This is why Cobb's guilt is a violent, bloody projection. He is not just sad that she died, he knows on a deep spiritual level that he killed her by breaking her mind with that simple, unshakable idea. In limbo, Ariadne finds Fisher attached to a hospital drip line, and Cobb confronts the projection of Mal. She begs him to stay in limbo with her, to accept this world as real, but Cobb finally makes his choice. He tells her the truth, that despite her being a perfect projection, she is not his real wife, and his guilt is not enough to make him stay. Ariadne pushes Fisher off a high-rise building to deliver a kick back to the 3rd level. As Fisher falls, Eames, waiting in the snowy fortress, uses a defibrillator on Fisher's physical body. This perfectly synchronized kick bridges limbo and the dream fortress, reviving Fisher's consciousness. Fisher completes his emotional journey with his dying father. Cobb, however, chooses to stay behind in the crumbling ruins of limbo. He is not staying to wander in grief. He is staying to find Saito, who is now a very old man, lost in the infinite depths of his own forgotten self. The chain reaction of the kicks begins to cascade upwards. Eames blows up the fortress, creating a freefall in level 3. Arthur fires his improvised elevator charge, creating a freefall in the zero-gravity hotel. The van finally hits the water, creating a final freefall on level 1. These kicks fire in a perfectly timed sequence, like dominoes falling backward, shooting the team through the layers of consciousness. They wake up, gasping for air on the plane in first class. The mission is complete. Robert Fisher looks around, a new man forever changed by an idea he believes he discovered all by himself. Back down in the depths of limbo, Cobb finally finds the ancient Saito. Through the fog of near eternity, Cobb reminds Saito of their bargain, not with words of money, but with a simple visual trigger that Saito's subconscious recognizes: a spinning top. Saito, remembering his promise, reaches for the phone. The implication is that he wakes and makes the call. Cobb passes through United States immigration without a problem. His record is clean. He is greeted by his father-in-law, Miles. He finally arrives at his home. Throughout the entire film, his children have been seen only as fleeting, faceless memories. Their faces always just out of frame. But this time, when he calls out to them, they turn around and we see their faces. It is the moment Cobb has been fighting for. But before he goes to them, he takes out his totem, the spinning top, and spins it on the table just as a habit. This raises the film's ultimate question. Is this reality, or is this still a dream? But Cobb does not wait to see if the top topples. He sees his children's faces, runs to them, and embraces them. The camera holds on the spinning top, it wobbles ever so slightly, and then the screen cuts to black. So how do we explain this ending? This is not a puzzle box that contains one single definitive answer, but we can build a very strong interpretation based on the thematic and visual clues that Nolan has given us. The key to unlocking the ending is not the top. It is emotional resolution. Cobb's arc throughout the entire film was never about proving whether the world was real. It was about choosing that it was and letting go of his guilt. The spinning top is a distraction. It was Mal's totem, a symbol of the guilt he felt for her death. The true totem for Cobb is his wedding ring. The actor has said that in every scene where Cobb is dreaming or trapped in his memory, he is wearing his wedding ring. But if you look closely in every single scene that is grounded in waking reality, the ring is gone. In that final homecoming scene, when he spins the top and walks into the garden, his hands are bare. He is not wearing a wedding ring. This means physically he is in the real world. But even if that clue didn't exist, the theme is clear. Cobb walks away from the spinning top. He does not care if it falls because he is not going to live his life obsessing over the nature of reality anymore. That obsessive need to verify reality was the poison that killed Mal. The children turn around and their faces are visible, and the actors playing the children are slightly older, signifying the real passage of time. The screen cuts to black because Nolan is performing an Inception on you, the audience. He is making you wonder, planting the seed of doubt in your mind and leaving you to make the leap of faith. So, what is Inception truly about beyond the heist and the action? It is a metaphor for the creative process of filmmaking itself. Dom Cobb is the director. Arthur is the producer who makes the logistics work. Ariadne is the screenwriter who designs the world. Eames is the actor who transforms into characters. Yusuf is the special effects wizard who creates the impossible. And Saito is the studio head who funds the dream but wants to see the final cut. Together, they create an immersive experience designed to make a subject, the audience named Fisher, feel a deep, life-changing emotional catharsis. That is the idea planted by Christopher Nolan, a story about the power of storytelling. Thank you for spending this time with us here at Cinemax, going through this complex, multi-layered deep dive. Hopefully this breakdown helped you not just understand the mechanics of the kicks and the mazes, but the emotional core and the philosophical genius of this incredible piece of cinema. If you found this explanation helpful, please smash that like button, subscribe to Cinemax, and let us know in the comments your own interpretation of that final shot. We will see you in the next video.